Let me talk briefly about regional CVE, which is what we want to contribute to for IGAD. There are, the regional plan of action is there. It relies on questions of mobilizing resources, primarily the impact and whatever, in order to accomplish the 7 priority areas. The 7 priority areas, number 1, is to enhance dialogue and conflict prevention. They believe that that would actually help in countering and preventing violent extremism. The other is strengthening good governance, human rights, and rule of law. Third, engaging communities. Fourth, empowering youth. Fifth, gender equality and empowerment of women. And education, skill development, and employment facilitation. Strategic communication, the internet, and social media. These are the priority areas of what we have today in literature. That if we do that, we are able to combat, prevent, and counter violent extremism in the IGAD region. These are the priority areas in the literature. You can also come up with yours, but we say violent extremism is dynamic today. It keeps changing. But our research has picked this one, empowering youth, education, skills, and probably we don't give employment, but also looking at strategic issues. And you can see that our research focusing on youth. And how do we harmonize? And UNDP looks at strengthening good governance, using development, and others would say, yes, let us educate the mind. So this is what I wanted to share with you. As a my final slides is that let us look at the research that we have done from the grassroots, bottom up, and also top down. So from the bottom, that Rufina is going to share with us, we would find some of the empirical information that either support the literature or are totally different, but we will bring them to you. And we still believe that an holistic approach needs to be done, an inclusive approach, which should include civil society to set up a platform. This is where grievances can be measured. I think that is all, as I mentioned, an holistic, religious leaders, elders, youth, civil society leaders, all these have to be put together in one model, and not necessarily development alone, but also ideologies. And I think that is what I have prepared for you. It is quite long. I'm sorry for keeping you sitting and listening to these boring literature issues, but they have set us the background to some of the issues that either we will confirm them, yes, it is true, or we'll say no, unemployment is not an issue in what we have found. So thank you very much for giving me this long opportunity to bore you, and I will be with you and take your discussion points at a later time. Thank you so much.
You realize that the quartet is composed of academia, and for academia, research methodology is very, very important. Then we have the civil society organizations headed by BizNet. Then we have policy makers headed by the C1 IGAD. So, as Professor Sande has already mentioned to you, and from the video you saw, that we came together as the quartet to come up with an innovative approach to doing research, so that when we go to share the information, it is not new to the stakeholders. We identified the 4 stakeholders: the donors, the policymakers, the CSOs, the academia, of course, we have media on board. We work with media all the time. They are a very important stakeholder here. Now, we have already been given some background information about this research. Our focus is on youth. Why the youth? Because they are the future. The youth are the future. Every nation is focusing on the youth. The globe is focusing on the youth because they are the future. What we do today will affect them tomorrow. And globally, there has been a lot of focus on the youth because of the activities of the youth. And it has, a lot of research has been done, and out of that research, it has come out that the youth are excluded from all the activities that are happening or being discussed about them. In most cases, things are said for them. They are only used as a conduit. They are not engaged, they are not involved. Now, the definition of the youth also has been questioned by very many. Even us, some of us look at us, we are 60 years old and we say we are youth. Or we are youthful at heart. Or we think like youth. And we force the definition, we make it a confused aspect. The UN looks at youth as people who are between 15 to 25 years. But the African Charter takes it further and defines youth as those who are between 15 to 35. In Kenya, we say anybody between 18 and 40, 35.
Yes.
35 is a youth. So we have taken the African Charter. But we also find that among the youth who are married, let's say even if you are 16 years and you're married, they exclude themselves from being youth. You see, they start defining themselves as people who are they are beyond the youth because they think that youth are childish. The youth are characterized with certain behaviors. So it is important for us to, these are the conversations that are still going on, and we are saying that we will, in this particular research, we will take the UN, the African Union definition of youth. These youth are facing a lot of problems. They are faced with poverty, unemployment, they have other developmental issues, they are faced with a lot of political conflicts and the like, as Professor has already explained. And this has made them become violent. They feel insecure and they also react through violence. It is not all youth who are violent. You'll find that some are, others are very passive. In fact, according to research, only a third of the youth are violent. The rest are not. And even these ones who are not violent, nobody is saying anything about it. It has all been lumped together that youth are violent, they are rude, there are a lot of stereotypes about the youth. The UN Global Counterterrorism Strategy of 2006 calls for holistic and inclusive approach to counterterrorism. This is the focus of our research. From the strategy tasked member states to reflect on human perspectives in their policies. They are moving away from the government or the regional level and coming down to the household and the individual level, the human perspective, to place emphasis on targeting disaffected, marginalized communities, like the youth, the disabled, women, and such. Special attention is put on youth as members of the community who feel excluded from all decision-making processes. in most families, people will talk about the elders in that family or the children. But the middle level, the youth, are ignored or they are excluded. Even in budgeting, it has been also been found out that in most families, people will budget for the elderly and the children who are in school. But if you are out of school, nobody will really care or say anything about you. So lack of this or limited participation of the youth in matters that affect them calls for effective collaboration from all stakeholders so that they can deal with the issues of youth. In the statement of the problem, we would say that I would summarize it in just 2 or 3 sentences. There are various issues from the gaps that Prof already identified. We find that the IGAD region has already made significant strides in response to the global or the UN counterterrorism strategy. Member countries have responded to that. In response to the African Youth Decade that we are finalizing this year, member states of the African Union have also responded to that. But there is a lack of information. There is lack of information, or it is not clear. Ideally, gender disaggregated data about the daily lives of young people in relation to their decisions on involvement or non-involvement in violence. It is not clear about their daily activities. There is also no data on their youth experiences, lived experiences. Those who have gone those who have been involved in violent acts. The data about what they feel, what they went through, and let's say like those who have gone to Al-Shabaab and come back or survived radicalization and did not join, go to join the terrorists. All that nobody has documented effectively. We also find that the positive things that the youth are doing are not documented. Mainly, we have painted a picture of youth who are disoriented, who are confused, who want so much so fast, a lot of negativity, but the positive things like the youth ambassadors and what they are doing, those who are working with the returnees, those who are working in communities to encourage others. Instead of us going this wrong direction, let us play football, let us do this other, let's start income generating activities. That data, we do not have much of that data. The micro level of research or the micro level studies to uncover the incentives or disincentives for violence or individuals. Whatever incentivizes people to join violent extremism has also not been well documented. It could be there, but maybe it is not published. We did not come across it. Then data on the process of recruitment. The data on the process of recruitment is also limited. We have a lot of overgeneralization of issues, but the specifics on this is the process from this level to that one has also been lacking. And for our country, Kenya here, we have found that maybe it is because of the approach that has been used. For a very long time, the government has used the hard approaches, the countering, but the soft approaches to it have been lacking. Now this is when that debate or that discourse is ongoing. It is also not clear to what extent the youth are engaged or their voices are captured, or even if they are heard at all. It's not clear to what extent they are involved, because in most cases, from our research, as you will see in the afternoon, most of them say, we don't know, we only hear, we see it on TV, those kinds of things. Now, majority of the studies we have overgeneralize issues to do with youth. As I said, they have formed, they have stereotyped youth. We also find that even the drivers of violent extremism have been overgeneralized. We have read them in the media. Everybody says, no, it's just because of poverty, or it's because of unemployment. But the finer details, we do not have them. That was a reason. It was a gap we identified, and we felt we can add value to this. We also find that from the literature or from the studies that have been done, they have used the problem-solving approach rather than exploring what works, what does not work, and why. Problem solving, okay. If the youth are idle, let's give them work. If they want, those graduates want to do some internship, okay, let's give them internships. Without exploring what works, speaking to the youth, what do you really want? Is that your interest? The interventions that they have brought on board have been like, it is just a top-down. We have decided all of you should rear chicken. Then they give them 2 chicks to go and start a poultry project or something like that. Is that their interest? Then a lot of focus has been on job creation. Most of the researches we find and the ones that we came across, especially in the IGAD region, they have mainly focused on job creation. Even the Ministry of Youth has done so much on job creation, especially here in Kenya. In fact, Kenya is leading in Africa on that particular perspective. They have really done a lot of work on job creation and unemployment. But then, is that the only reason? Is that the only reason? Some other literature counters that and says no. Even this unemployment, it may not be the root cause. There could be other things attached to unemployment. So, our research would like to understand the extent to which policy initiatives and interventions address youth and their marginalization. Because it is a big issue that we feel should be addressed comprehensively or holistically. And that is why we felt in our approach, we must have government buy-in so that the policy makers walk with us throughout this journey. We must have civil society organizations that are working at the grassroots level with the youth and families and communities. We have academia who do research. The academia have to come from their ivory tower, come down and work together with these other arms, with the government, with the civil society, with the media, so that we can report adequately or we can contribute positively, maybe to fill some of the gaps with the findings that we have. Now, the purpose of the study is to collect gender disaggregated data on the contextual analysis. From our inception reports, from our inception meetings, when we presented what we want to do, everybody who was in the room said context matters, context differs. What you will find in Nairobi will be different from Garissa or different from Mombasa, or they may be similar. But context is very important. And also, gender disaggregated data. We have overgeneralized certain things. For example, women are victims. Women are victims of violence. Is that true? That men are the ones who instigate. They are the perpetrators. Is that true? We had to find out and report from our research. We also, the other idea is to strive to increase shared understanding of the context, inform evidence-based policy making on PCVE programming in the IGAD region for violence-free nations. There are 4 objectives of our research. We intend to analyze the factors that predispose the youth, male and female, to engage in violent extremism in Uganda and Kenya. Why? Because I've said earlier on, the drivers of violent extremism have been overgeneralized. We want to be specific. Then, to identify avenues and establish strategies by state and non-state actors for creating as well as deepening interventions to engage youth in P/CVE interventions in Kenya and Uganda. There are various strategies that have been put in place by various countries to avert. You see, every country is worried about security. Without security, nothing can move. We are here today because we can feel we are feeling secure in this room. If there was tear gas everywhere and all, we would be seated quietly listening, isn't it? So the strategies that have been put in place by governments, by even county governments, and also civil society organizations, we would like to know what are they, specific ones, what are they? Then finally, to look at policies. What policies have been put in place by the government and practices related to P/CVE? Every government, or specifically Uganda and Kenya, have put in place certain policies. Some of them that are not documented, we would like to know from you who are here, and maybe you share them with us so that we include them. Finally, what has worked, what has not worked, and why? And while we are doing this, we are mainstreaming gender in this research. As I said, we have the quartet. The IDRC are our donors. OSREA is the lead organization of the project and the project manager. They are the ones who wrote the proposal, the first proposal. They developed the tools together with the other research teams. They brought together the research teams. They are in charge of conducting the research, developing the research manual, piloting the research manual, and disseminating all information and knowledge. CVE and IGAD are the interlocutor between the UN system and bilateral donors. Very key, because when we look at ourselves and we look at the IGAD countries, we find that this research will have a very big impact, not only to the IGAD countries, but the East African community and also SADC, by multiplier effects, in the sense that the IGAD countries are also members of the East African community, and the East African community countries, especially Tanzania, is a member of the SADC region. So whatever findings we have, or whatever recommendations we have, even this methodology, and anything good from this research will have a very big impact. Now, if we draw the map of Africa, and we look at ourselves as Australia, we feel privileged to be part of this research and impact most of our countries in Eastern and Southern Africa. And other than that, work with the West African countries, which are in another cohort. PeaceNet is the CSO, that is the implementing partner, linking with partner CBOs, FBOs, working on P/CVE. And this, as I said earlier on in the morning, they did very well. We wouldn't come from Australia in Ethiopia to come to Kenya or Uganda and know where to go. PeaceNet was they are the gatekeepers. They are the ones that held our hand and told us, you will go here, you will meet so and so, you have to go it this way, this is how we usually do it. And we followed the rules and we got the data that we needed. The risks and ethical considerations and how to mitigate them. One of the risks that we already envisaged before we went into the field was the stigmatization of the respondents. This is a highly sensitive research, and many people would feel shy to freely give out their views about it, because after they say that, everybody will start saying, you are the one who said this, they'll be stigmatized. Or maybe families that will come up and say, my family members are actually involved, or they're returnees, or whatever it is. So, to do this, we sought the consent of the respondents. We asked them if they were free. And we even asked them, there were those who were ready to speak. We could take their audio, but they would say they do not want the video. But there are those who would also say, take my video and even take it to the TV. I want to be seen that I said this. Then secondly, are adverse effects of the research. This is also a very highly emotionally charged research. Ourselves as researchers, we went through a lot of emotional trauma. In fact, nobody has cancelled us. We have cancelled each other. Some of the things we listened to, some harrowing experiences that families or particular respondents have gone through, were very, very emotional. Many times you would find that you are even losing focus. But before we went to the field, we got consent from our national from our National Research Ethics Committee at the National Council of Science and Technology, NACOSTI, and both in Kenya and Uganda. And there were rules that we had to follow. We followed this, but as I said, it is a very emotional research. Many times when you would listen, especially to, if you come across people, returnees, and they tell you their experiences, or families that have lost their loved ones in these terrorist attacks or in violence, or people who have just had bad experiences. Maybe they were rounded up and thrown into the cells and they were harassed by the police, such kinds of things. It was very emotional. Thirdly, keeping the research team together. Group dynamics are not very easy. We all know that because we are human beings and we work with people. It is not easy to keep the quartet together, that we are responding to the demands of the donors in good time, that we are working well with PeaceNet and maintaining our good relationship, or with IGAD and all that. But then, IDRC also, when we told them that this might be difficult, because each one of us comes from a different orientation and looks at things differently. For example, the academia, the way academia even define research objectives is different from the way the civil society would like them defined. And even the approaches of academia to go to the field are different from the ones of the civil society, or even the government. The way the government does research, it is snappy, It is today, I want to do this and find out, so what has happened? Okay, then they move. But for us, in academia, we take time. Sometimes we go to the field even 3-4 times before we come up with a report that we will present out there. So we knew these are difficult dynamics, and we sought help. So they took us to a training, so that they trained us on this group dynamics. They trained us in transdisciplinary research, so that because we are different people from different fields working together for a common good. This research is based on 2 theories. I will not really go deep down into this one because it's very academic, but I just want you to understand. So what is guiding us? There are 2 theories. The social control theory by Hiss in 1969, who asserts that strong bonds to family, community, and society are fundamental to violence prevention, because they both provide a conduit for conveying social norms and expectation, in addition to abiding by the norms. as I said earlier, would like to develop homegrown solutions. And this theory is directing us to the family. I did talk about the social, the agents of socialization, the family, the church, the media, the school, the peers, the people who relate with somebody. The agents of socialization have a great role. And if we want to solve this problem, then we must go back to them. The second one is the conflict transformation theory by Lederach, who asserts that conflict transformation is a process of engaging with and transforming the relationships. We must invest in relationships. We have said that the youth are ignored. They are not engaged. People have stereotyped them. And therefore, we must engage the youth. We must engage the youth, invest in relationships with them, respect them. We must also have, in cases where we have constructive conflict, in areas where we have constructive conflict, we cannot depend on outsiders to come and force issues on people. We must talk to the youth, members of the community, who will tell us exactly the direction we need to follow. You cannot come from nowhere and tell people that, okay, here in Kenya, these problems you are having, you can only solve them in this manner. For example, my friend from Harare, their method of solving their issues may be different from the way Kenyans solve theirs. As we solve them even with a handshake and we move on. But in other communities, people will say, no, we must sit here, we quarrel, fight. Like the Turkana, you must fight first, then after that we make peace. That kind of thing. So it is, the dynamism must be engaged. Now, taking these two theories together on agents of socialization and then the idea of constructive conflict resolution can only be solved by the people themselves, homegrown solutions. We put them together, and that is what is guiding our research. We shall share this information with you, because we know it is important. The method, data collection, the research methodology. In the research methodology, we are using mixed methods research, whereby we are combining both quantitative and qualitative data. These mixed methods was mainly qual-quant, more qualitative than quantitative. Why? We wanted to capture the voices of the youth and the communities in which they live in. What do people, how do they feel about their situation? How can we change that kind of situation? Also, as we have mentioned repeatedly, we have 3 organizations that came together. Each one of them has a special role that they are bringing on table. Then it is multi-methods. Multi-methods in the sense that if you remember the research journey, we had focus group discussions, we have a questionnaire, we had key informant interviews, and all this, and then participant observation methods, where we were combining all this while we were in the field to collect data. The study area is the IGAD region. Professor says it is a geographical accident. This is an area in Africa that is marred with a lot of conflicts. It has a lot of conflicts from the communities, within the countries, and even beyond the borders of the various countries. It is also considered a vulnerable region because of its proximity to the Arab states. You see, Egypt, with the relationship that they have, and then now the IGAD region. We find Eritrea is providing support to religious extremist groups which are linked to Al-Qaeda. And Eritrea is just our neighbor, a neighbor to Ethiopia. And also the presence of in the international community in the region offers international terrorists more high-value Western-related targets. For example, we have seen in Djibouti, the training, the international, it is mainly where there is a lot of training, military training for peace and security in the region, and everybody knows that. Then we find most of like in Kenya, we are having many international organizations sent to Ethiopia, and recently we are also seeing that we are also having a lot of international organizations now moving to settle in Tanzania. That is attractive to these terrorist groups. Now, Kenya has been categorized by the UN strategy of counterterrorism as a moderate target for radicalization. Somali is the extreme, Kenya is moderate, Uganda is latent. And we wanted to also establish this and give more information to them. Is it right to, or is it just an issue, something that they have come up with? In Garissa, for example, we were in Sankuri, Bura Garissa, Jarajila, and Balambala. In Mombasa, we went to Majengo, Kisauni, Likoni, and Frere. In Nairobi, we went to Dandora, Babadogo, Mandora, Dapsite, Central Nairobi, and Isli. We collected data. We collected data in these particular areas. We had 270 youth survey questionnaires, which had 135 men and 135 female. We also had 9 FGDs with male youth, 9 with female youth, and 9 with community leaders. As we had explained earlier, we separated because of the gender dimensions. We wanted to capture the perspectives of the male youth and the female youth. Then we would also have a combined one to put them together so that we can see now how do they again relate when they are together. That is what happened in Nairobi. Let me not talk about Uganda. So, particularly, this is what happened. We had multi-stage sampling technique. We were snowballing. When we would come across somebody, a key informant, from the FGDs, we would identify a key informant. Then that key informant would tell us, I know somebody who can even give you deeper information on this, but the person is found in such a place. Then we would engage that person and send that person to go and get us the respondent the particular respondent that we want. So we purposely sampled these areas because we were advised by government as that they are hotspots. And then from there we did multi-stage sampling. Our research design is, I will not go so much into the various details, but I've already mentioned the idea of the hotspots, the multi-stage sampling, the snowballing, and our aim is not to leave anyone behind. The SDGs are working for this, not to leave anyone behind. And therefore we do not want to leave the youth behind in the things that matter to them. They are the future. We had discussions with various stakeholders. This is just an example. In Uganda, we were able to meet like a county governor, what we have here in Kenya, in a place called Mayuge, and he put together all the heads of the departments that he works with, and they had a whole afternoon with us, sharing with us issues of violent extremism. This is also an area in Mayuge, is an area that is also a hotspot in Uganda. We mentioned we were doing debriefs every day. So at the end of every session, we would have a debrief to share information about how we are proceeding, any challenges we are having, and we would solve them on the spot, so that the next day we are not going through the same. We visited local leaders, they are the gatekeepers. This is Senior Assistant Chief in, I think it was Babadogo, yes, where we would talk to him, and then he will tell us, he will call for us the youth leaders, and the youth leaders will now identify whom we should talk to, and or maybe say, no, don't talk to so and so, you can talk to this other person. In Uganda, we saw the youth leaders at Kitgum, a male and a female one, who are at the government level, the county level, the youth leaders, and they shared information with us. This is the area where we had the LRA movement. We met university students at Makerere and shared with them. We wanted to know their perspectives on issues of youth inclusive mechanism in violent extremism. What do they think? How do they perceive? So that we can compare those at the university and the ones we found in the informal settlements. Here we are with the returnees from the LRA movement in Uganda. These are ladies of different ages who have come from there, including the wife of
Joseph
Kony, the youngest wife of Joseph Kony, who was the leader of this movement. Very interesting stories that we collected there. Then we had the Muslim women. We found it particularly important to talk to the Muslim community because of the ideology that it is Islamic, that issues of, there's Islamophobia. And there are people who have this wrong notion that violent extremism and radicalization is only done by Muslims. So we needed to talk to the Muslim women and Muslim men to tell us what they think, and they explained to us to understand the issue, to just help people understand the issue of ideology. Here we are in Mombasa. We met, now he's a CS. Yes, we have the former county commissioner, Mr.